From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Well, good evening and welcome into OpenLine. I'm Chuck Long, going to be along with you for the next hour. As always on OpenLine, it's your forum. Tonight we are talking to the experts. It is Ask an Expert evening, and we're going to be talking about medical malpractice. We're going to be asking the lawyer. One of our favorites here, Clint Kelly, is going to be with us for the full hour and talking about medical malpractice. This statistic always gets my eyes wide open. Just want to read it to you as we start the show. According to the Journal of the American Medical Association, medical negligence is the third leading cause of death in the U.S., right behind heart disease and cancer. So that's a sobering fact. I know, unfortunately, quite a few people have had to deal with this, and we're going to kind of get all the ins and outs on medical malpractice. And as always, when you have a question or comment, just give us a call. You can see the number on your screen, 737-7587. As we welcome Clint Kelly, attorney Clint Kelly. Great to see you, Clint.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So on this rainy evening.
Yeah, I about had all the rain I can take.
I think we've had enough, definitely. So, as we get into, talking about medical malpractice, and as people are tuning in for the first time and hearing about this, I don't think people realize how common medical malpractice and how common the causes for that really are. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you're right about the Journal of the American Medical Association. They did this study, and it was on the heels of the British Medical Journal, and it was a very thorough, intensive study, and they concluded about 250,000 people die in the United States each year from some type of medical mistake. Now, what that stat does not include, Chuck, are the people who are injured. And that could be anything from someone who's lost a limb to someone who's in the wheelchair to someone simply who's been burned during a medical procedure. But the fact remains that these are happening in greater numbers, and really I don't see any end in sight because of the way the healthcare system's being run right now. And this issue is going to take, in my judgment, prominence, because if we're going to have a repeal and a replace of Obamacare, there's certainly going to be some discussion of what they call, medical liability changes.
Right. So there's a lot of questions about this, more than ever. So we want to get to some of our first calls. As always, we say this is your forum for your questions, for your comments. We're going to go right to the line right now with Sabrina. Sabrina, good evening. Thanks for joining us here on OpenLine. Do you have a question or a comment for Clint Kelly?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
The question I have is that I have a child that had his tonsils removed from Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. We had several arteries that were cut. He ended up having a stroke, so a 2-hour stay at Vanderbilt Hospital ended up being a 45-day stay. And how will we go about suing the hospital, because they are not wanting to take responsibility on all the medical issues that we're now having?
Sabrina, how old's the child?
He's 15.
15. And when did this occur? When was he hospitalized?
Last year.
Do you know about what month of last year or what date?
The surgery date was April the 12th.
Okay. And that would be of 2016, correct?
Correct.
All right. How's he doing right now? Or she? Is it he or she?
Well, it's a he.
Right.
He is having to do speech therapy now full-time, and we are actually doing 3-day intense physical therapy.
All right, Sabrina, what I want you to do is first thing tomorrow morning at 8:45, I want you to call my office at 615-824-3703, and you ask to speak to Nurse Kathy. Nurse Kathy is the person who takes all the phone calls that I get for medical negligence cases, and she'll get an intake or report from you, and she knows exactly what questions to ask you in order to do an evaluation, and she will type that evaluation up, send it to me, and then I'll make a judgment on whether or not the case needs expert review. I tell you, when you go in for something that's supposed to take 2 hours, Chuck, and child winds up being there 45 days, the odds are something definitely went wrong. The question is it the product of a medical mistake, or is it a bad outcome? And that's actually a good time to discuss this. Patients have bad outcomes. Doctors don't guarantee good results. However, some of these outcomes are the product of medical mistakes, and that's where I come in, and that's where the court system comes in to give these injured people some justice.
Okay, well, great. So, Sabrina, thank you so much for calling in this evening, and make sure you do call Clint's office tomorrow. And that's great advice for anyone who has one of these questions that we'll be talking about through the evening. Is the main thing you need to do when you have a question is call. Because that's, waiting too long is always the problem with a lot of people.
Correct. She did exactly the right thing. And Chuck, in Tennessee, every person has 1 year from the date of discovery of the injury to file pre-suit notice, and that year is solid. Now, for a 15-year-old child, that statute is longer. The statute doesn't begin to run until the child turns 19. But in any event, anytime something happens to you or to a family member that you think has been caused by a medical mistake, pick up the phone, call me or call another malpractice lawyer, because the call's free. And you don't pay anything unless we recover money for you or for your family member.
All right, good to know. So, again, if you're just tuning in, we are talking about medical malpractice with attorney Clint Kelly from the Kelly firm here in the Nashville area. We're going to go right back to our lines right now. Carla is on the line with us. Carla, good evening, and do you have a question or a comment for Clint?
I do. I'd actually like to ask Mr. Kelly to expand on some comments that he's made on these shows from time to time about having definite opinions about some of the safer, in quotes, hospitals in the Nashville area. I know you don't want to single out hospitals that aren't doing a good job, but maybe you could tell us the ones that have the fewest complaints.
Okay.
Yeah. Carla, let me tell you why I can't say that as much as I'd like to, or at least I can't say it on the air. When I enter into settlement agreements with hospitals, I am required not to discuss the facts of the case or reveal any types of facts that may be negative against that hospital. The patient or my client is also bound by that agreement. There are a lot of reasons why we have those agreements, but primarily the doctors and the hospitals are buying their piece. And so, as much as I'd like to tell everybody what my opinion is, because of these agreements I've entered into, I simply can't give them out on the air. But let me give you a suggestion or something that you can do that would be helpful. You can go online and check with the hospitals, each individual hospitals, find out what kind of infection plan they have. Find out how they go about advertising on their website, how they protect patients from blood clots, infections, things of that nature. And then also, it does not hurt to call the Department of Health and ask the Department of Health for specific information about complaints regarding particular hospitals. You can pick any hospital you want, whether it's in Nashville or the surrounding areas, and they will generally provide some statistics that they have that are a matter of public record. But otherwise, there's not really a whole lot you can get, because right now the law does not require hospitals to publish how many malpractice cases they have to defend each year or how many complaints there are. And it should. That should be a requirement of any legislation. And, I'd encourage people to call their legislators and ask them to make that a requirement.
That's a great idea as well. So, Carla, thank you so much for calling in this evening. Again, we've got our lines busy this evening. If you do have a question or a comment, 737-7587 is the number to call. We appreciate your patience. We're going to go to John right now. John, thank you for your patience. And do you have a question or a comment for Clint?
Yes, sir. Got a question for you.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Yes, my son is. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, John. We can hear you.
I'm having a hard.
Are you having a hard time hearing us?
I need to get John to call back.
I tell you, we're gonna check on this. So, John, hold with us. Don't hang up. We will check on some things. We are going to take a break. When we return, we'll continue with our Ask an Expert. We are talking about medical malpractice here on Open Line tonight. So come on back with us.